Shalom, Chavarim. This is Devorah Kalik again, or some of our friends say Kalik, and I'm with Bless Israel Network, and I'm talking to you today from Israel. And we've been doing a series on Chanukah called The Joy of Chanukah. And I've been sharing about why we believe at Bless Israel Network that it's important for the disciples, the followers of Yeshua as the Messiah, to keep Chanukah, and it's because he did. So we've recorded 3 other parts before this one. This is part 4. So if you haven't seen the other parts, please do take a look at them because it really gives a basis for what I'm going to say today. So we're in part 4, and this is actually about how the festival of Chanukah actually came to be. Now, before we get into those details, I promised yesterday, or in part 3, that we would explain how to how to add the candles to a Chanukiah, which is a Hanukkah menorah, if you will, and then how to light them. So the candles are added from right to left, but we light them from left to right. So your first night, you'll put a candle in the furthermost right branch, and also one in the place of the shamash, which is the servant candle that you use to light the other candles. Usually the branch for the shamash or servant candle is higher or lower than the rest of the branches. And then on the subsequent nights, a candle is added to the left, and of course you'll replace the candle that is to the right that you burned the previous night. Each night, the new light is lit first, and then the others are lit moving to the right, from the left to the right. So I wanted to show you, I have my Chanukiah all ready to go. And so as you're facing the Chanukiah, you would light the right one first. That would be the first candle you would light. And then you would add the next night, you would add a light here to the left of it. And of course replace your light that you burn on the first night. And so on. Okay, so hopefully that's explained well. So as soon as possible, now for the lighting, as soon as possible after nightfall, which is when you see 3 stars in the sky, we light the candles, beginning with lighting the shamash, and then you use the shamash to light the other candles. When you're done, of course, you put the shamash back in its place. And if possible, if at all possible, if it's not dangerous, put your Chanukiah in front of a window so that others can see it. The idea of we're the light of the world, we're little lights. Yeshua is the big light, the Messiah is the big light. And of course, as Israel, we are called to be the light of the world. And so you want your light to shine before men. Okay. Now, before lighting the Chanukiah, it's traditional to say the blessings before you light the Chanukiah. And I'm going to say them first in Hebrew and then in English. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you if you don't know how to find these, you can. It's very easy to find them online. So the first blessing is, in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. In English, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has made us holy through his commandments and has commanded us to light the Chanukah lights. The second blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim ha'em bazman hazeh, which means, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our ancestors in those days at this time. And then on the first night only, we say what's called the Shecheanu. And that goes like this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehercheanu vekimanu veyigianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us life, sustained us, and brought us to this time. And then you light your Chanukah, and then you enjoy the evening together. On subsequent nights, of course, you would say only the first two blessings. We don't say the Shecheanu on the subsequent nights. If you want to find the Chanukah blessings online, just do a Google search for Chanukah blessings. And Chabad.org, C-H-A-B as in boy, A-D.org, is a good traditional site that can help you. If you already have a Siddur, a Jewish prayer book, you'll find the blessings also in there. Of course, when you do the search for Chanukah blessings, you will come across some messianic sites that add other blessings and suggested readings. But I'd like to tell you and share with you my heart, our heart at Bless Israel Network. We believe that we should first do the traditional blessings established by the rabbis, because it's so important that we establish unity with the rest of Israel. And also because Yeshua endorsed the rabbinic authority in Matthew 23. Of course, you may feel free after doing the traditional blessings to add other suggested blessings that you find, or readings of scripture, such as, you could bless the Father for sending us Yeshua, who is the light of the world, or you could read Psalm 27, verse 1, or any other scriptures about light. They're wonderful to add to the beauty of your own Hanukkah celebration and the Festival of Lights, which is what Hanukkah is called. Be creative, have fun, especially if you have children. You'll find on the websites there's dreidel games you can play if you want to buy a dreidel. Anyway, I won't tell you all about that. Just look it up online. You'll find some really fun things to do. And so that's it for how to light a Chanukiah. And today in part 4, we're getting into the real reason that we actually celebrate Hanukkah. We're going to answer the question of why Yeshua mentioned the prophet Daniel in Matthew 24:15, and what it is that John meant when he gave his little aside saying, let the reader understand. Quite simply, it's because Daniel's prophecy revealed future history. And I want to also say that a lot of Christians and a lot of followers of Yeshua, even in the Messianic movement, believe it or not, don't know that by Yeshua's day, there already had been one abomination of desolation. We'll be sharing how that happened in a few minutes, but he was prophesying also that there would be another one, and there was another one that happened at the hands of Rome. At least this is how the Jewish sages have interpreted the Jewish history. It was when the Emperor Hadrian built a temple to Jupiter right where the sanctuary of the Second Temple had once stood. And of course, it was destroyed in 70 AD, or 70 Common Era, CE, we say. And further, it is believed by many biblical scholars that there will be one more abomination of desolation that is yet to happen. And we can see a hint of this in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. The one yet future will also be from a man who claims to be God, at least to his followers, just as this happened in the past. This time, the abomination of desolation will signal the Great Tribulation. If Yeshua mentioned it, and Yochanan, or John, wanted the future readers of his word, and the listeners that were hearing him speak, hearing Yeshua speak back in Matthew, if their readers were to understand, and that's what they were saying, don't you think that we should understand it? So here goes the story of how the first abomination of desolation took place. Daniel 8, verses 3 through 8, is a prophecy about Alexander the Great, who conquered the Persian Empire. He is the shaggy goat, or the great horn, which was broken off at the height of his power. In his place, 4 more horns arose, Daniel tells us, after Alexander, because Alexander's empire was split between 4 of his generals. Seleucus was one of the generals that was given control of Syria and Asia Minor. Ptolemy was given Egypt. I'm not pronouncing these names necessarily correct because they're Greek, but Lysimachus was in charge of Western Asia Minor, which is Turkey, and Cassander was given Macedonia, or Greece. We're going to focus on Seleucus, who took control of Eastern Asia Minor, which included today's Israel. Fast forward to 171 BCE, and a descendant of Seleucus, Antiochus IV, is ruling. He called himself Antiochus Epiphanes, which means God manifest. But the Jews nicknamed him Antiochus Epimanes, which means Antiochus the madman. During the previous 200 years, Israel was considered a very strategic geographic region, and she had been tossed around because the powers of Syria and Egypt were trying to dominate the area, and they were fighting each other for domination. At that time, there were 2 political factions in Israel. The first faction was the Orthodox, or the religious, who preferred Egyptian rule because they felt that Ptolemy and Egypt had allowed them freedom of worship. The second party was the progressive Hellenist party, if you will, of the aristocracy. They didn't care about the faith of the fathers at all, and they just wanted to be like all the other nations. They saw economic and social advantage in appearing enlightened and civilized. And so this was a battle of the Jewish versus the Greco-Roman mindset. There were those who wanted to keep themselves holy and separated from the rest of the nations. And then there were those who wanted to assimilate and become like the nations. Hello? Does any of this sound familiar? Well, isn't this exactly what's going on today in Israel, and I would say in the world, among the followers of the Messiah? There's a real battle. I'm not saying that the true followers of the Messiah are being Hellenized or are wanting to assimilate, but many times this happens without us really realizing it happens. We get comfortable with our culture, and we think that doing certain things, oh, well, there's no harm in that. Well, that's what was going on historically at this time. There was a battle between 2 factions who wanted to stick with Judaism, if you will, and what God had commanded them in the Torah, and those who wanted to assimilate, who were more liberal and wanted to be like the rest of the world. So this is a battle for those of us, and something we should learn today. for those of us who want to follow God's ways and remain pure, against those who want to, for lack of a better terminology, do their own thing. Okay, I want to say to you, just like it says in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. This cycle in history has happened over and over and over again. All right, back to our history. Antiochus IV was a very, very cruel and power-hungry ruler who, through intrigue, actually killed the high priest, who was vehemently opposed to Hellenism and the pagan Greek culture encroaching upon Judaism. Antiochus, some people, by the way, say Antiochus, so, whatever. But I say Antiochus. Antiochus installed another high priest who was more liberal and pushed Israel into Hellenism. By 168 BCE, Antiochus was at war against Egypt, and victory seemed certain for him until the Eastern Roman Empire, seated in Constantinople, today's Turkey, intervened. Now, these are very likely the ships of Kittim, of the western coastlands, or Kittim, who opposed him in Daniel chapter 11, verse 30. On his way back, on Antiochus's way back, he vents his fury on Jerusalem and orders his generals to destroy it. In 3 days, 40,000 people are killed and 40,000 are sold into slavery. Antiochus is told that he can serve Rome or else. And he decides to serve Rome, but as I said, he's furious. He then erects an idol of Zeus and places it in the Holy of Holies of the temple. He sacrifices a swine, a pig, on the altar and sprinkles the blood all over the Torah scrolls and all over the Holy of Holies, defiling it. He cuts the Torah scrolls into pieces and burns them on the altar. Then he enacts law that forbids the keeping of the Sabbath, the dietary laws, circumcision, keeping the festival calendar, or even having copies of the Torah scrolls. Then he stripped the temple of everything and took away the gold, silver, and all the temple instruments. He imposed Greek language, Greek culture, and their religion, which of course was idol worship. Anyone caught practicing Judaism was put to death. This was the first abomination of desolation. It was all about assimilation or annihilation. This was not only a struggle between Jew and Gentile, but also a battle between those Jews who wanted to uphold Torah and those non-religious secular Jews and Gentiles who wanted to destroy it. You should know that Antiochus IV is considered by most Bible scholars the most compelling type of the future anti-Messiah or Antichrist in the Bible. The future man to be inhabited by Satan will do exactly what Antiochus did. He will be against Messianic Judaism and against the Messiah of Israel. He will be trying to keep him from returning, the Messiah from returning, by destroying Jerusalem and destroying the followers of the Messiah and true Messianic faith. He will be against the Torah. He will be against circumcision, keeping kosher, and keeping the Moedim, or the Jewish festival calendar. He will be against keeping Shabbat. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, he is called the anomos one, the lawless one. This literally means the Torahless one, because the word nomos in Greek is the word that was used to replace the Torah in Hebrew when the Septuagint or the scriptures were translated from Hebrew into Greek. That's the Old Testament. It's called the Septuagint when it was translated into Greek. The word Torah was replaced by the Greek word nomos. So he will be the lawless one, the Torahless one, the one without Torah. Well, I hope you can see and agree with me that history is not so boring after all, and especially, in my opinion, Jewish history. All these things that happened before will be happening again. Let's stay tuned for part 5 when we'll learn about the heroic Maccabees. And let me just say, if you are being blessed by our teachings and they are edifying you and strengthening in your faith, please consider partnering with us. Go to www.blessisraelnetwork.com/donate and you can make a tax-deductible donation to our ministry through our nonprofit. Well, that's all we have time for today. This one was a little bit longer than normal, but I wanted to share these important facts with you. And I'm saying shalom from Israel and litraot.